this is actually probably my second, maybe third favorite of the Mega Man games, but it was probably, like I said, it was probably one of the ones that had the potential to be the tightest to design, but it kind of fell apart in certain spots. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. As far as the plot is concerned, because you have to laugh whenever you talk about Mega Man and the plot, but Mega Man has now twice prevented Dr. Wily from taking over the world. Dr. Wily has gone to Dr. Light, Mega Man's creator, and the good robot genius, as opposed to Dr. Wily, who is the evil one, and said, hey, I want to reform, I want to be peaceful, let's build this giant robot for peace called Gamma. And the only thing is, my fantastic design for this giant peace robot needs these space crystals from other planets. So we'll build these other mining robots to go to other planets and mine the space crystals. And then the robots on the other planets go crazy. Dr. Light and Dr. Wily don't know what's going on, so they send Mega Man out to go and take out the 8 mining robots and retrieve the energy crystals, and that's actually the plot. It actually has more of a complicated plot than I expected. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Snake Man. Because when you think a robot that mines energy crystals from another planet, what you really need is a snake. So, standard Mega Man game, running, jumping. This added a new feature, the slide, and the Mega Buster. Arm cannon, whatever you want to call it. So, that's Mega Man. Oh, and I'm off to a great start. So the snakeheads there, they actually fire very fast bullets. It's kind of hard to dodge, and they and the bullets track you pretty well. That spot's a pain. You're gonna get hit no matter what. So, I'm trying to get back into the groove of things here. It's been kind of a busy couple of weeks. Actually a busy month, really. Of course, I had conventions. I went to Gen Con. Oh, hey, DiceApp. Didn't see you come in there. And you distracted me and got me shot, so. DiceApp mentions that he never played any of the original Mega Man games. He played the X series. The X series was really good, and it built on a lot of the same design principles as the first ones. But honestly, I never really went beyond 3. And ODog made the jump from oh geez, you started with the Atari and then got a PS2? So one of the sort of glitchy things in this game that I was talking about, and you'll probably notice it eventually, it's kind of tough to show off on purpose, but Mega Man takes an extra, like, frame of animation or two to turn around, compared to the earlier games in the series. So you sometimes got into this mess where you would be sort of, you'd be facing in the wrong direction and firing away because you didn't hold the button long enough to turn around. And it was just one of those little things that you don't really notice it unless you play this one immediately after playing one of the other ones in the series. But it actually did get a little bit frustrating at times. And it just shows how, like, a little design mistake or a little failure of quality control can mean everything. Honestly, Capcom was kind of quick to push Mega Man 3 out, mainly because Mega Man 2 was very successful. Mega Man 1 had kind of passed under the radar. It was a neat game, but it didn't make any huge waves. It wasn't until Mega Man 2 came along that the series really started to take off, and Capcom wanted to make another one pretty much immediately. So they rushed production on this. I don't know the exact release date, but I think it was actually rushed for a Christmas release. And these little, the cloud platforms and the dispensers... Oh, shit. Well, that was a mistake. What are you gonna do? And as is usual for me, I'm gonna try to avoid save stating, except in spots I know are really problematic. Just so that, I don't have to keep repeating the same things over and over again. And... I really should have been talking about, the difficulty curve and the way this game kind of telegraphs its challenges, but I'll do that on another level. I really didn't even come up with a plan. So this was another spot where the game had sort of a glitch to it. Mega Man will either stand to the right side or the left-hand side of these cloud platforms. So if you're standing in the middle, or if you're standing far off to one side, you'll kind of get glitched into position. But, oh, damn it. I really screwed up again. It's been a long time since I did this one. This is gonna... And I don't know what the hell happened there. The guy just sort of teleported into me. Anyway, if you're standing off to the right too far, you will just get glitched off the platform and die. And there were just lots and lots of those little glitches here. This is something that I'm going to point out just for sort of in-level tutorializing. Notice how the first cloud platform, you don't have to deal with anything else. And even the second one, you don't have to deal with anything else. The third one is kind of high up there, so it takes a while for the cloud platform to come out. Oh, fuck this. I guess I picked up an extra life somewhere. Also, I don't know why it's starting me right next to the Bogo guy. That jump is actually a really long jump that if you don't make it right from the edge of the platform, you're not gonna make that jump. Anywho. Sorry. So, like I was saying, so the first cloud platform, it comes out pretty much right away. And that's important so that you don't try to make that jump. So that it gives you a chance to kind of learn how the cloud platforms work by forcing you to end up on one. Okay, and then also that tube is actually... And I glitched off the side as I landed. It's gonna be one of those nights, isn't it? Alright, sorry guys. I knew I shouldn't have just tried to do something blind. Well, not blind, I mean, I have played through the various games in the Mega Man series. Tons of times. Yeah, that's right. O-Dog is saying at least it's not Dark Souls. I feel kind of bad about Dark Souls, because I sort of lost my will with that one. Like that Four Kings fight just, like, sapped me of my desire to play any further. It was one of those things where I couldn't see a strategy or a way to handle it. I'm tanking a lot of damage here. I keep thinking about restarting Dark Souls. Maybe not on the stream, but just to kind of play it. because I really did like it, and I'd really like to beat it. It's just certain spots are... This is another area where kind of the room design is important, getting back to actually talking about the game. This could be the first time you encounter the little whirly ball throwing kind of Sniper Joes there. And notice that you enter the room in a place where you can't really engage it, and by the time you walk around, you've seen it make its attack at least once. And you've also noticed that, you know, it's got its eye closed and then it opens its eye just before it throws. So, even if you come rushing into the room, you're kind of forced to observe the monster and see what's going on before you can engage it. It's sort of it's actually an important concept in that Mega Man makes really good use of a lot, forcing you to observe how things work or discover how things work before you really have to deal with them. And it's actually, like, it's a concept that I've tried to put into encounter design in D&D in a lot of places. You know, because ideally you don't want to shock the players with an ability they couldn't possibly see coming and have no way to deal with. I should probably, what you call it, save state here. So anyway, notice that it doesn't add the little cloud monsters right away either, which are actually bullets shrouded with clouds, and if you shoot off their cloud, they come pelting at you and take 2 more shots to kill. So, if you can expose the cloud while it's high up, and not a threat to you, you can get it to shoot right past you. There we go, that's how you do it. I'm kind of all over the place there, but that's actually a really well-designed little gauntlet. And this is Snake Man, the first Robot Master that I like to deal with. He has a pretty simple pattern. He runs back and forth, though actually he follows 2 different patterns based on where he jumps. And then randomly he will stop at either the sides of the room or in the middle of the room to launch 2 snakes at you. And you can just sort of keep jumping over them and running back and forth. You can also learn where he jumps in his 2 passes through the room and slide under him if you prefer, but I've never been good at, like, fast precision sliding. If you can manage to hit his snakes with the arm cannon, you can destroy them. But speaking of quality assurance, this is a really neat, fast-paced fight, except for the fact that his 2 snakes, plus all the animation on his tail, mean that he drastically slows down the game, as you probably saw, which actually makes him a lot easier to deal with, and it kinda saps this fight of one of the cooler things about it. So, again, it's just something that, you know, maybe quality assurance should have caught, and maybe taken the segmented tail off, or made the animation on his little snake guns a little simpler. Now, like with all Mega Man games, each time you beat a boss, you gain that boss's weapon, and then you can use that weapon in other levels and against other bosses. And each boss has a weakness to another robot's weapon. But what's interesting about Mega Man 3 is, unlike the other ones in the series, except 2, which got weird, there's actually not one simple boss rotation. Okay? So, Snake Man is actually part of one boss rotation. Yeah. Snake Man is actually part of one boss rotation, as you'll see, where you use his weapon against another boss, and then another boss, and go all the way around. but I guess I should use his weapon. So, notice that my first shot just passed right through that thing. Sometimes, those creatures just do not take damage. Again, just minor quality assurance glitches that make this area kind of a pain in the ass. But you can see what Search Snake does. You can fire 3 at a time. They walk along the ground until they find something and destroy it. And of course, in the upper left-hand corner, each special weapon has limited ammo that you can refill with pickups. And that's actually a weapon pickup, so we'll refill Search Snake. Hey, Gremlin! Nice of you to stop by. And Gremlin says that Mega Man 3 is her favorite of the Mega Mins, which apparently is the plural of Mega Man. Honestly, the plural of Mega Man thing is kind of funny because, I hate referring to multiple Mega Man games because you have this, like, impulse to... Oh, I forgot to talk about Rush, but okay, I'll get back to it. But you have kind of this impulse to, That was wrong. I can't jump over there from here. Alright. There's another new feature that was added for Mega Man 3, kind of built on the items that Mega Man 2 gave you, the jet sled and the little elevator platform. But that is Rush the Robot Dog. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna... Give me 1 second here. I just gotta close down my Twitter because it's eating up resources here. No, I actually just got started a little while ago, Gremlin, who was running a little bit late, and we've actually been talking about some of the quality assurance issues that ended up in Mega Man 3 because of it getting kind of rushed to production, which is one of the things that actually keeps me from calling it my favorite of the Mega Man games. Now, most people when they play Mega Man 3, they actually start with Top Man, but because of the number of ground-based creatures, I go with Snake Man first, just so that I have his weapon. Oh, this is another good example of in-level difficulty curve and in-level tutorials. Notice that the first time I fought the cat, I was kind of constrained, so that his little yarn balls stay on the screen and keep bouncing back and forth. That's important because as long as the yarn balls are on the screen, he doesn't use his second attack, which is to launch those hopping fleas. So the first time you fight him, he can only use one of his attacks. The second time you fight him, he'll alternate between the two of them. He'll throw the yarn balls, and then he'll go to the flea attack when the yarn balls have bounced off the screen. So it kind of forces you, it kind of lets you learn to deal with one attack before you have to deal with the other. So that's a way where it takes the same creature and then increases the difficulty by nothing more than the design of the layout and what attacks it can actually make useful. And now we face Top Man. Top Man, for me, actually starts off the other boss rotation, as I was talking about. But you can see his attack pattern is pretty basic. The one... Whoops, I didn't slide away in time. The one monkey wrench is that he tends to wait a little random amount of time before he starts moving. So you have to watch... And I missed... I was looking, Mad Adventurer just showed up. Hello, Mad Adventurer. I'm too easily distracted by a chat to do this. So interesting thing with Top Man, though, was that at some point during production, all of the files and all the designs for Top Man were lost. And he ended up having to be reprogrammed from scratch. I think it was a fire? I'm not sure. So we have no idea what the original Top Man was. But when you use his weapon, you actually, you see that it actually is kind of different than the attacks he used. And then, so now this goes back to the boss rotation thing that I was talking about, because there are actually two, and Top Man starts off the second one. So Snake Man's weapon is used against Gemini Man, and Gemini Man's weapon is used against Needle Man, and Needle Man's weapon is used against Snake Man. They're all weak to those weapons, so you have one rotation there. The other rotation is Top Man's weapon is useful against Shadow Man, Shadow Man is useful against Spark Man, Spark against Magnet, Magnet against Hard, and Hard is useful against Top Man. We're going to stick with the Top Man rotation for a second. And remember that I said all that because there's going to be a quiz later on. Though, actually, there's, that'll come back to kind of haunt the game. Because it was rushed to production, there's a spot later on where that boss rotation becomes kind of a problem. But we'll save that as something to talk about later. Now this enemy is someone who will pop up periodically throughout the game. We don't know who he is at this point in the series. His name is actually, he's listed as Breakman. And if you've never played Mega Man 3 before, I won't do any spoilers. So that is Breakman. He shows up, you fight him for a little while, he's got a fairly straightforward pattern, and then he opens the way forward for you. And this is another spot where Snake Man's weapon is really great. Those, that thing in the upper portion of the screen is a shadow generator. It'll slowly drift off the screen, makes the screen dark while it's on the screen, and then when it goes away, the screen lights up again. You can destroy it if you can get high enough, but, using Snake Man, or using the Search Snake, which is the weapon, you can kind of use it to scout the path ahead and take out any foes along the way, so it kind of trivializes this challenge. The other thing you'll notice is that the game throws mainly ground-based enemies here for you here, so that if you can't figure out how to take out the shadow generators, you can at least track where the ground is based on the enemies. Shazba. Oh, hi, Shazba. Welcome to the stream. Shazba is asking about whether the boss weaknesses are a known thing, or whether you kind of figure them out. And the answer is that back in the day, when the Mega Man games were coming out, there was no internet. So unless you or a friend had a Nintendo Power subscription, you kind of had to figure them out. You would trial and error your way through... Damn it. I hate those things. You would trial and error your way through until you found a boss you could beat. Because in theory, every boss can be beaten with the arm cannon, but in practice, some of them are a lot harder to do than others. So eventually you would find a boss you could beat, gain its weapon, and then go back to the main screen and, you know, pick out another boss and see if you could beat that one with the weapon, and if not, you would try again and keep trying until you found the next boss you could beat. So, even though the game is fairly straightforward if you know the weaknesses, and it's pretty easy to get through, if you were going in blind, you got weeks and weeks and weeks of gameplay out of it. That's one of the reasons why they added the password system early in the series in Mega Man 2, I think, because it did require all that trial and error. Speaking of glitches, I'm going to go ahead and save state here, because there is a major glitch here that potentially can come up. But I'm going to use the top spin. So this is the top spin weapon. It's fairly close range. If you come into contact with an enemy with it, it'll destroy them. But there's sort of a glitch here, and Shadow Man is a tricky opponent. Okay, because he's got two main modes of attack. He'll throw his two shurikens, or he'll slide directly at you. And it's random and he's fast, so it's kind of hard to avoid them. Okay? He's probably one of the tougher bosses in the Mega Man series. And I wanted to show that before and just die to him so that you got to see his attacks. And now we're going to take him out with the top spin, but I'll mention the glitch here. So, with top spin you get through him very quickly, which is why I didn't do that the first time. I wanted to show him off. But here's the deal with the top spin. You only drain the top spin's ammunition when you actually come into contact with an enemy and defeat it. And any enemy that can be defeated by the top spin is defeated by it in one hit. The problem is Shadow Man is not killed by it in one hit. So occasionally, the top spin will think that it's coming into contact with him over and over again, bajillions of times, and instantly drain all of its ammunition. The only way to avoid that is to not come into contact with Shadow Man any longer than is absolutely necessary. So, otherwise it glitches out, you find yourself empty, and he's really tough to take out without his weakness. And we're going to follow his weakness chain, so we're going to go up against Sparkman next. But anyway, that's the reason I save stated, was because with that glitch, then you're just kind of screwed if that glitch goes off. And Shadow Man's weapon is actually really cool. It is his shuriken. Goes out and returns, but it can be fired in 8 different directions. It uses up very little ammunition, and it does a lot of damage. So it's one of the more powerful weapons in the game. It's actually comparable to the Metal Blade in Mega Man 2, if you know that one, which was so powerful as to be considered overpowered. And so what they did to balance it out was to make it have a shorter range and make it come back like a boomerang. Which, to be quite honest, I honestly don't think it was enough to balance it out. It's a really powerful weapon. The Mad Adventurer is asking about the story of Mega Man. So, essentially it is the future. Sentient robots have been constructed by the good robot maker Dr. Light, including Mega Man here, and other industrial robots. The evil Dr. Wily keeps reprogramming the industrial robots to take over the world. And that's pretty much it, except for getting into the technicalities of each sequel. Tries to change up the story a little bit to no real avail. Well, I didn't time that well at all, did I? I hate those things. By the way, those things are actually indestructible, so you just kind of have to jump through them. Mega Man actually, let's talk about some of the series design a little bit. Mega Man was actually one of the first games to solve what I like to think of as the sandbox problem. Because you can take the levels of Mega Man in any order, you kind of have a sort of design problem where you can't build a difficulty curve throughout the entire game. You know, each level has to be reasonably approachable, so to speak. So the solution is to build a really tight difficulty curve into each level. That is, each level starts off easy, teaches the skills that are needed to beat that level's particular gimmicks, and then tests you on those skills and presents you with a boss. So damn it. I was being talky. And actually, the little room with the elevating platform, the deadly spikes on the ceiling, and those screw things, is a good example, because earlier I had to deal with the elevating platforms just by themselves. Now this time they've added, and the spike ceiling, which will obviously kill you. But now they added enemies and narrow platforms to the mix to kind of increase the challenge. And that's sort of a pattern for the Mega Man games, where it tends to introduce a gimmick, then it'll introduce another gimmick, and then it'll ask you to deal with the two of those gimmicks put together, or more. Yeah, and Gremlin, getting back to the whole in-game difficulty curve thing, Gremlin points out, and then at the end there's Wily's castle, and the final level of the game, which is always the final level of the game, ends up being a test of all the skills that you've learned throughout the entire game. Since you know when people are going to face that, you can deal with that, or you can do that. So, this is Sparkman. He'll jump around, he'll stop in one of the 5 spots in the room, launch 8 sparks in 8 different directions, and then launch a big spark that moves slowly and tracks you. He's vulnerable to the Shadow Blade, and he's vulnerable enough that you can just kind of take the damage and ignore it. As I did, because I'm not good at dodging. The other thing to get back to Gremlin's point, let's see, Sparkman. Let's do Gemini Man. Gemini Man actually gets back to that other boss rotation where he is weak to the Snake Man. And I think Shadow Blade is going to be useful here. I'm going to hold off on using Spark Shot for just a second. So you have these guys here who are like dive bombers who will throw 3 fireballs that ignite and create an obstacle on the ground and then fly off the screen. And then you have the penguin that will bounce up every so often and throw penguin bombs. Eggs, I guess. Egg robot. It's a robot penguin, so they're egg bombs. I don't know. Whoops. This spot's really annoying. I'm kind of quiet because it takes a little bit of concentration. But, one of the things about that last level Dr. Wily business is that, the later games in the series started adding extra last levels and more challenges after you had beaten all the Robot Masters. Kind of in an effort to sort of extend that endgame difficulty curve. And Breakman is back again. This time he doesn't fight, he simply opens the way forward for whatever reason. And I suspect that one of the reasons is actually because when you try to get through that area, you tend to take a lot of damage, so probably they decided that an actual fight with Breakman was a little much at that point. And they didn't have time to redesign the level because, again, it was rushed out. I can't prove any of this, but that's my theory. Also, down here, apart from the fact that the whole level is trying to give you a seizure, you have these robot tadpole eggs that release robot tadpoles when you shoot them. And honestly, as you can see, there is absolutely no challenge or real tension to this. It just is something you kind of have to get through. It's pretty boring. Mad Adventurer is asking how much video game design that I draw into my RPG games, and I gotta be honest, I pull a lot. That stuff about... A lot about the structure of the game. Where'd Rush go? Here we go. A lot about the structure of the game, a lot about how challenges are presented and how challenges are paced. Mega Man is a really great level of a great example of how to build a good difficulty curve into a dungeon. You know, if you think about it, if you think about the different encounter areas in your dungeon, and you know roughly the order that the players are going to take them in. Damn it. The chat is asking me a question. O-Dog is asking about Rush. Rush is the Mega Man's pet robot dog, which was added for this game. He has 3 features. Rush Coil, which is a bouncy spring. I also picked up Rush Marine, which I'll show off in a minute. When we get to an underwater area. I'll try to do this without getting killed here. You have Rush Coil from the beginning, and the other one, the other features are added later as you beat certain bosses. So getting back to the question of, like, adventure design in D&D and stuff, like, one of the techniques that I pulled from Mega Man is the idea of, you know, if I'm gonna run a dungeon that has, say, 10 encounters in... Whoop, hold on a second. Since we now have an underwater area, we'll go ahead and break out the Rush Marine, which, as you can see, is a submarine. And as you continue to drive it around, it drains energy, which is why we jump out of the water and grab those pickups. Alternatively, you could hop across the platforms and try to dodge all the enemies and everything else. I'm gonna get killed. I did get killed. So you're gonna have to watch me try and jump across all the platforms, huh? Alright, this could get ugly. Now, interestingly enough, you do not have the jump height to get to that platform, so if you are completely out of Rush Coil and Rush Marine, you cannot get up here. Those explosions are big enough to penetrate the platform you're on, and so they will knock you off into the water. Which you'll die if you fall off the bottom of the screen, obviously. Like that. Running out of hit points kind of... I should have used an energy tank. This is one of those spots that it's hard to talk through. One of the tricks to dealing with this, too, is recognizing when you're going to take damage and kind of planting yourself as far from the edge of the platforms as you can. Which, I say that like I'm an expert, but clearly I'm not. I'm out of practice, because usually when I go through this spot, I just use the Rush Marine to get through it. So like that, I kind of knew I was going to get hit, so I was pulling to the right to begin with. And again, pulling to the right. If you can... The dragonflies lock on to where your height is as they come down. So if you can kind of be in the air when they start to come down, you can lock them into position above you and keep them from flying into you. Alrighty. That only took a couple of tries. Sorry about that. And then these guys that can only be hit occasionally because their hitboxes don't work. We're just going to ignore them. And this big guy, who here is completely not any sort of a challenge at all. Gemini Man is weak to the Search Snake. I'm going to go ahead and save state because I'm out alive, so if I get killed here, it's going to be a continued situation. And I don't want to go through that level again. So this is Gemini Man. He splits in two, and they run back and forth through the room. Just like that. The only difference is, whenever you fire your weapon, they fire theirs. They also stop wherever they... Ooh, damn it. I forgot it. I wasn't watching my hit points. I was talking too much. Alright. After you get them back down to half health, one of them disappears and the other one runs back and forth. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and use my energy tank here so that we don't have a repeat. When Gemini Man is running back and forth, he will jump when you jump and fire when you fire. So if you try to jump over him, he'll jump into you, and if you try and shoot him, he'll shoot you. He's completely keyed off what your inputs are, which, it's a trick that a lot of Mega Man bosses have used. Metal Man did stuff like that in Mega Man 2. There's actually a lot of variety to the AIs in the game, and how the different AIs function. Oh, Gremlin is talking about the energy tanks and overusing energy tanks and saying she's terrible at Mega Man. Well, to be fair, the Mega Man games they take a lot of practice. They were kind of in that era of Nintendo Hard. I mean, the first one, I did not even beat the first one when I was a kid. I only beat it like 2 years ago, finally. Whoops. So these little magnet guys, if you don't do anything, they will just pick you up and carry you. They don't drop you into pits, they just carry you around unless you're foolish enough to jump into them. They actually pose absolutely no threat whatsoever. So, yet another great enemy design. And now we have Breakman again. Damn it. There's actually a strategy to Breakman that I'm utterly failing to implement. When you are on the same half of the screen as him, he does that little hopping attack and starts firing, but he only fires in the air. When you're on the opposite side of the screen, he just runs and doesn't fire. So if you get into a pattern like this, like I've actually started to do, you pretty much just take him out like that. These guys. Oh, have I not shown... Let's see here. So Gemini Laser is what I picked up from Gemini Man. It's a fairly normal laser, except that it reflects. It'll bounce around the screen 3 times and then go off the screen. See, Gremlin is giving spoilers away. Okay? Until you know who he is, the game refers to him as Breakman. So, now she's ruining the story for all the non-Mega Man fans in the chat. But yes, that is correct. It is eventually revealed that Breakman is actually named Proto Man. And also at the end of the game it is revealed why that's important. And Gremlin is apologizing. But that's okay. Because I kind of wandered into her stream She did a really fun stream of Recketeer, an item shop story the other night, and I kind of wandered in and made fun of the game and distracted her through the whole thing, so I kind of deserve some abuse. So these are the infamous appearing disappearing platforms. Every Mega Man game includes them at least once. They're a pain in the ass, but what can you do? You watch them a few times, you learn their pattern, and then you do them. Second one, now we have to deal with that magnet that pulls you in if you're in front of it. But you can kind of trick this one out by cheating and skipping. If you know the timing, you can actually skip some of the blocks in the sequence. Like I'm gonna do here, because now, third one, we add one of those sucking magnets and also a bottomless pit. So you can see how it kind of builds up the challenge from area to area to area. And now here we have another one. Bottomless pit, no floor at all, and the sequence. And the sequence continues off the screen, so you can't even see the whole thing. And like that. Yeah, Gremlin. Gemini Man is named after the twins, the Gemini twins. Oh, I didn't need to come down here. I didn't need any of this. That was kind of a stupid waste. Sorry. I was distracted trying to remember the myth of the Gemini twins, but I really can't. So, what are you gonna do? DiceApp is pointing out that Gemini is the Latin word for twin. I did not realize that. Alright, and now we're gonna deal with... I haven't actually used Spark Shot yet. Spark Shot is probably the worst weapon in the game. I'm gonna use it here. I'll show you why in the next level, but... so this is Magnet Man. He has two basic attacks. He'll bounce across the room, and then he will either launch 3 magnet missiles, or he will stand, become invincible, and suck you in. Like thus. Oops, I was standing a little off the wall there. Honestly, I find the enemies that become invincible super obnoxious. You know, like, his invincibility attack just... It basically means, okay, stop the fight for a second and wait through the attack, because you're not really dodging it, you're just holding a direction to avoid getting sucked in. I'm having a lot of trouble connecting with him. And just for safety, I'm going to use my other E-Tank so that we don't end up repeating this whole level. Because I'm, again, out of lives. Oh, I'm so glad I used that E-Tank. I didn't realize he only had 1 hit left. I think, in general, if the boss is weak to an attack, it takes 8 shots to take him down from full health to nothing. Don't quote me on that, and some of them, like the Shadow Man topspin thing, gets a little weird. I think you need 4 contacts with him to do it. So we're gonna take on Needle Man next. Sorry. I'm like snorting into my microphone there. So, let me take a second to talk about Spark Shot. So when you hit an enemy with Spark Shot, it becomes paralyzed. You then can't do anything to it. You can't hurt it. You can't kill it. You can't switch weapons. You can jump over it and hopefully avoid it. But it's basically a stun gun that gets you nowhere. It's actually a really I'm gonna get killed, aren't I? Alright, that's fine. That's what I get for showing off. When did I pick up a life? These guys are actually, however, weak to Gemini Laser. As long as you can get it in fast enough. Otherwise, if you shoot their needles that they shoot out, you end up, yeah, it ends up just absorbing your shot. Then we also have the Met Hats there. I think this is the first time? No, it's not. So the little Met Hats have been around since the beginning. They're also in every Mega Man game with new variations in each one. You might also notice, if you're really attentive, that in that block of texture was what appeared to be the top of a giant Met Hat. Just remember that. That might come up again later. Okay, well now, to be fair, Shazba. Shazba is saying, what good purpose was Needleman built for? He was... The instruction manual is actually pretty clear on this. He is a mining robot that was sent to this particular planet to mine for the energy crystal that was needed from Needle Planet to power a giant peacekeeping robot. I just got bumped off the edge, didn't I? I kind of covered the story of Mega Man 3 before the stream really got started in earnest, but okay, let's go back to it. So Mega Man 1, there is a kindly robot maker named Dr. Light. He builds 8 industrial robots. Dr. Wily reprograms them to take over the world. Mega Man beats them. Dr. Wily is put in prison. World is saved. Mega Man 2, Dr. Wily escapes from prison, builds 8 of his own robots. Builds 8 of his own robots to take over the world. Mega Man beats them. Dr. Wily is thrown in prison. Now we have Mega Man 3. Mega Man 3, Dr. Wily has decided, goes to Dr. Light and says, hey, you know what? I'm good now. I've decided to stop being evil and taking over the world. So I have this plan for this gigantic robot weapon that will be used for peace. And my design needs these energy crystals from other planets. So let's build 8 mining robots to go get them for the giant robot that will be used for peace. And then the 8 mining robots, which include Needleman, go berserk for some unknown reason, and Mega Man is dispatched to the different mining planets to save them, or to stop them and get the energy crystals. Oops. Shit. I didn't slide. I'm sorry. Gerlin just said Dr. Light sounds like lawful stupid. He's actually stupid good more than lawful stupid. Now, now, Mad Adventure is saying that Dr. Wily may not have been telling the truth, but to be fair, the game is trying to set up, or is setting up Breakman, that robot, the mysterious robot that keeps showing up, as the villain. So, we are to assume that Dr. Light is, or Dr. Wily is at this point, completely good aligned and means no harm by the giant robot weapon which will be used for peace. And by the way, I'm not like making this up or embellishing it. I know I usually put things in kind of funny, hyperbolic language, but in this case, that is pretty much the way the instruction manual lays it out. It's a giant robot, it will be used for peace. I believe it is referred to as Gamma, the peacekeeping robot. But, again, Dr. Wily is definitely good. It's actually interesting, when I was going through here before, the game kind of glitched out and the needles weren't going in the proper sequence. Shaz, but what exactly is it that is amazing? Is it the story of the Mega Man games? Because they only get better from there. I mean... I don't want to... Because I may get around to playing them all eventually, so I don't want to spoil the stories of 4, 5, and 6, but they just keep getting better. Because every story is still just a ridiculous excuse for Mega Man to fight 8 robots and then Dr. Wily. Let's see, Mad Adventurer is asking, does anyone at any point turn out to be surprisingly someone else's brother? I can't answer that right now because spoilers in this game. So this is where I kind of screwed up before, but the one useful thing Sparkshot can do is freeze those giant robots. You know what? I'm not even going to go into the story of the Mega Man X series. But okay, so here we have Needleman, and he is weak to Gemini Laser, which in itself is kind of problematic. Because he is, as you can see, actually I'm doing pretty good, because he is tough to dodge, he bounces around, and once you fire Gemini Laser, if it doesn't connect, it keeps bouncing around the room for 3 or 4 rebounds until it finally goes off screen, and you can't fire again. So if you get unlucky and miss a couple of times, you're pretty much just going to get trashed by Needleman. I actually got lucky more than was good at that. Because usually what happens is you end up shooting past him. And I also got the upgrade for Rush Jet. And we are on to the last of the 8 Robot Masters. Hardman. Go ahead, chat. Get it all out of your system. Hardman. We'll go ahead and use Needle Cannon a little bit here. Needle Cannon rapid fires those needles. It uses very little ammunition, which is handy. And it does a little bit more damage than the arm cannon. So the only thing that keeps it from actually just replacing the arm cannon is the fact that it's got limited ammo. One of the nice other things about it is you might notice that the needles have kind of an up and down scatter, so it's got slightly a larger hitbox. Chad is asking about Rush Jet. This is Rush Jet. It's literally Rush turns into a jet. And actually there's a very interesting little glitch with him too, since we were talking about all the glitches that got by because of the rush to production. So, interestingly enough, Rush Jet does not consume weapon energy while you're not in contact with it. So as long as you keep jumping on it, you can use it endlessly. Now that glitch is very fortunate because it actually helps out with another piece of really crappy design that will come up in a little while. Because there are a few places where the design just kind of flops. Whoops. Thought you were dead. See, now notice the first one I could deal with easily enough, and I could see that he just gets onto the ceiling and hangs. This guy actually don't have that option with. So now I gotta deal with him bouncing around, but I'm mostly just gonna, whoops, get away from him. And use the Mercy Invincibility. And I was just a little high up on the ladder there, wasn't I? Because these guys are nice, you can stay slightly below the hitbox of their maces, or flails, or throwing hammers, whatever they are. And suddenly I went silent. I ran out of things to say. That's it. Mega Man 3, ladies and gentlemen. From here on in, just silence from me unless something funny happens. I actually like... I don't know if you notice it, but those little bulldozers are actually being driven by Met Hats. Should have taken the upper path. Get the energy tank. Ah, the Mega Man sprite limit. Nope, Gremlin, that's right. They are Hammer Joes. And then there are these little claw platforms. And I screwed up. I should have had my Shadow Blade out. There's an easy way to deal with that. And now we have one last encounter with Breakman. And you can see it's changed the difficulty a little bit by changing the layout of the room so that I can't do the back and forth run. And the height of the platform in the middle puts me in line with his shots. However, I can simply just take the damage and take him out, basically damage race him. And because they knew that you probably were going to take a lot of damage from that fight, they make sure you can refill your energy right there. And then we have another one of these guys, which just is not worth dealing with. Honestly, they're not too terribly hard to take out, but it's the only use for Spark Shot. So, Magnet Missile is Hardman's weakness. Magnet Missile fires these little magnet-shaped missiles, which will then travel up or down to find the target. As you'll see in a second. And here we have Hardman. Hardman will launch 2 rocket punches. And then he will jump. And when he shakes the ground, everything gets frozen for a moment. And I think showing him off cost me just enough damage that I'm not going to win this. Oh, there we go. I usually walk into the room and just plow into the boss as quickly as I can and try to take him out because I'm not very good at dodging, but I figure it's kind of my job on the stream to show off the enemy weaknesses. And now I got Hard Knuckle.